Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another installment in the Quickview series, and clearly this is one that under the older format would have been under the Junk View series. The Toyo Open Country RT. Nope. The Tovo. It's definitely a V, am I right? The Tovo RT Open Country, and not to be confused with the Proline Toyo Open Country RT, which is a 4.45 inch, which actually measures out to about 4 3/8, as you can see. Well, the banana hands might not show it accurately. This is more of a conventional full-size Class 2 tire, around the 4.75 inches tall. Obviously, sourced via Amazon. They are kind enough to only put the white blocking on one side so you can run them inside out. They Starsky pretty good, but at the same time, they're kind of sticky. They're really stinky. They come with a... Do I still have one on the end of the bench? I use these. You can source these foams off of AliExpress. They have them on Amazon occasionally as well. Sometimes with a blue EVA, sometimes with a black EVA inner. These are very close. These are very typical to the width of a Class 1 tire. So if you or I or anyone that you might know is looking to fabricate an insert like this, a Canyon Custom Soft with the fridge foam on the outside, but that is far too large to go in a Class 1 tire, these are great for this. So we have at least one possible takeaway. I mean, if you find them cheap enough and they don't do well at all, the inner foam and the outer, they don't fit together at all. Like, can I emphasize air gap? There you go. Just that little bit undersized. Not. If you're surprised, then welcome aboard. Ventilated. I'm still doing 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock on the ventilations. Gotta get a little tension on it. The squeak on the bench, we call the Starsky of the show. 1970s? You know, any tire that does that. I can think of one or two instances historically where a tire provided the big chirp and still did okay. We've never had a tire do remarkably well if it throws down that kind of sound. And also, as I mentioned, the width of that included foam is really pretty perfect for a Class 1 tire. This is not a Class 1 tire. It's not even the 445 size. And it is much closer to the conventional width of, that 47, 48 millimeter width that we're used to seeing on 475 tires. So, as such, we've got a little bit of sidewall bag. It's got a little softness out there on the edges. Vertically, it feels okay. And the outer foam is a little more firm than what we would see off of an a la carte Amazon or AliExpress dual stage, not counting the Christmas trees. I realize, again, that's a phrase that doesn't make sense. The Tim Tins have all but disappeared. They're the one, that's the inner that you saw earlier. The Christmas trees have kind of replaced them. This inner is the exact same as the inner that we've been using for years to make dual stages. And this outer foam and this outer foam, this one's actually softer than this. The OG Tim Tin outer foam, which I don't think I have any left, was softer. It was more along the lines of the outer on a Proline dual stage. You never know what you're going to get, man. Because guys are just pouring chemicals into machines, and foam is coming out. And, if it's not Crazy Crawler or Crawler Innovations or somebody that's making foams deliberately, you kind of know, you kind of don't know what's coming out. Because of that fitment, we're going to have some sloppiness. They're going to slide about a little because they don't quite fill width-wise. That insert would probably need to be about 4 millimeters wider on the inner. They fill out vertically just fine though. 120 and a half, almost 121, which is right there on the cusp of 4 3/4, and pretty narrow. 42 inch and 9/16. Reasonably narrow, reasonably. Yeah, I still think that insert could be about 4 millimeters wider. Here's the beauty of what would have formerly... We're at 99% on the battery charge. What would have formerly been a junk view, because, again, got to do it. There are no losers here. Like, if this tire does absolutely horrible in all aspects, well, I mean, obviously, like why wouldn't it? If it does even sort of okay, then you're like, because there are a lot of different applications that we wheel these out for. When we go out and perform the 10 stages of the tire test protocol, what I'm looking for and at is rock crawling performance. I do look at surface transition, but primarily what I'm looking at is what do they do on rocks, right? And we keep coming back because tires are getting better. I don't think that can be argued. There are more good tires now than there ever have been, but it is a natural progression. That means that there are more good tires because there are more tires. There are more tires every day than there have ever been before. Like, the number being discontinued is very gradual of current tires, and the numbers being added, tires are appearing all the time, which means the ratio of good to bad tires, I think one could argue, is actually getting worse. Like, there are less good tires relative to the number of bad tires. And we also have tires getting more and more and more and more and more expensive, because we get real boutique applications where companies are selling tires for $35 a pair in this size, some not including foams, some coming with foams that are completely unusable. So by the time you're done fitting them to the vehicle, you've spent well north of $100 just to field a set of tires. Right here. KLR V2, is this a gold? With the halos? By the time you're done outfitting a set of these, it's like $130. They're very good. But that doesn't change the fact that they're $130. So economy is always there lurking. Like, how much is that? What's this going to cost me? So if we can field a set of tires that are at least above scoring average, and we can do it for $20, $25, that's something. That's why knowing that the insert doesn't perfectly fit the tire and that the insert isn't particularly made very well, the two halves don't actually go together remarkably well, we're going to run them like that anyway, because the goal of a tire and an insert like this that you buy off of Amazon or AliExpress for $20 to $25 is to run them. Standing here now, after hearing, it seems unlikely that this is a tire you're going to want. Oh, what if you're cut off some logs? No. These either work or they don't. And the only thing that can tell us that is a collection of dirt and rocks about 100 feet away from me right now. So let us go to there. I want to go to there. And we're going to find out. Baseline and I are going to find out. He is nervously, slightly optimistic. I feel, as I always do, that it's either going to do or it's going to not. And one thing is for sure, we're going to find out together. Welcome, of course, to the course. 65-1960. It is early in the day. It is late in the year. Generally, at this time of year, it's not barefoot season, but it kind of is. If you'll notice, full shadow we're not even to where the sun is kind of coming all the way up yet. 65 degrees. Okay. We have the amount of lug noise that we would absolutely anticipate. But they're not just falling off the rock. That's something. As soon as I said that, they fell off the rock. Oh, yeah. This is a thing. This is an absolute thing. This is a thing you should not be able to do. And I think this is an excellent illustration of the fact that a lot of, we take the tire and we squeeze the sidewall and the two inner sidewalls stick to each other. This is definitely proof of the importance of carcass, compound, and composition. The Toyo, or the Tovo, depending on how you like to view this, is indeed a real-world tire. It exists in the real world. The Open Country RT. There's also the Open Country RT Trail. The lug is very tightly spaced. The lug-to-void ratio, this tire is a stew. It's about 70% lug and only 30% void. So what happens there is, you notice there's a very rhythmic... That noise, that sound comes from the underdrive because the rear tires are moving at a different speed than the front tires and vice versa while we're at it. So what is happening is lugs, because we have, they're kind of little, almost like boomerang-shaped lugs, double rows down the center. When they're catching and then releasing, but the rears are catching and releasing at a different speed. So we get the... If we had no torque split and it was just 50-50, they would go... because the lugs would be catching and releasing at the same time. But instead we get... And it's one of those things. Did they get the compound right? Here's the thing. It's small. But they didn't get the compound as wrong as many do. Because when I do this, it almost it's like, I almost got it. But it's just out of reach. Because the compound doesn't jive with the composition. This lug pattern can work. The Toyo... spirit of the forest. The compound and the... Okay. Lug spacing this tight. Here comes our buddy. Buddy. Lug spacing this tight needs something very specific in the compound. It's not here. We saw all that squeak. So, but I can do this. It's pushing right there. You see, we're cutting back. We're cutting back, which means... this compound is certainly not the worst we've ever seen. Not even close. But it doesn't match. You cannot just throw it into the randomizer. You can't say, I'm going to take this compound, I'm going to make the carcass this thick, and I'm going to put these lugs on it. You can't just throw it into the machine and have it spit out perfection every time. So... the Tovo, just being a straight scale clone of another scale tire, it doesn't work. It doesn't work as a rock crawling tire because at least two of the three C elements, let's call them, are in direct opposition. They are at odds with one another. That said, the Tovo RT has on its shoulders basically moving forward a 9.3, which is the do not pass go line. If a tire scores below a 9.3, really, there's honestly no point in buying it. This one gets a bump to 9.3 by having a foam that is ultimately usable in something else. So it's not a complete waste to try them. But for a trail tire, I'm going to want long wearing. And for rock crawling, I want performance. Performance above all else. Appearance, generally not much of a concern. Fitment, like we'll cut things, we'll move stuff. Right through there, we're getting an almost, I'm seeing a little bit of wrinkle on the back. Look at it go, come on. Okay. I'm seeing like a mid-level OE tire level of performance. This is not incredibly distant nor removed from like something molded in R35. Get that low input. We got that slide. Big bunch of lug noise. Grab it. Nope. They are ultimately not very good. But viewed through a lens that has seen absolute catastrophes. Like, we have seen tires sold as rock crawling tires effectively incapable of breaching onto an obstacle. We have seen tires whose performance profile is worse than just hot gluing a foam to the outside of a plastic wheel. We've seen tires worse that are worse overall than a naked silicone insert. More grip from a silicone insert, which is basically vaned. So it's like driving a paddle boat up a rock, and it will do better than some tires. If imagine with me a world, a universe, where this, well, let me see if I can get it into the stuck again. Nope, there we go. If this was as bad as tires got, we'd be doing okay. We would absolutely be doing okay. But I've seen name brands, I've seen OEs significantly worse than these. These are not going to get a decent score. That's not in the hand of cards they've been dealt. Because I think life is ultimately too short to saddle yourself and your toy car of choice with the best worst tire. I am surprised and unsurprised all at once together. Front cyclone, that will come into play later. The reverse flip, I think probably due in no small part to the fact that the insert is kind of just flangling around inside. This right here, this tendency to slide/roll away, that's the insert moving. And it has just enough knot grip that we can't overload it and it will come out. These have been, so far, exactly as one would anticipate, mixed with a little bit of pleasantly surprising, because they're not disgusting. They're not absolutely terrible. I knew, even based on the volume of Starsky we got out of them, I knew this was not gonna be a bottom 10 tire. It was going to be that kind of worst thing. I had a little sneaking suspicion they were gonna be that lukewarm, but honestly, I don't think good enough, but also not so completely terrible. So perhaps the Tovo will gain a spot in the memory based on that. I can see if the sun gets on it. Look at that Look at that front tire and how deep our dish is right now, because the insert, post side hill, the insert is all smeared out to the right. They'll center back. It feels very OE. And at least conditionally, maybe our third instance of a tire with big Starsky Howl. And still kind of does the things. Like, it's drivable. It's better than bad. It's not a log, though. It's not good. Like, this is no mechanical involvement. Hey, all right. Yeah, now what you're doing to me, Tovo, is I'm thinking about all of the OE tires. Like, I'm thinking about General Grabbers and Pin Seekers and anything R35, Nitto Trail Grapplers. This has a more consistent profile than a Trail Grappler. It's going to be very interesting. It's getting more interesting. It's crazy how fast this pepper tree is growing. I have to trim it twice a month. Or it just devours the obstacle. Now, we can turn it into a ramp, you know. I want to see what it does on the low. Side lugular involvement is not terrible. This would have been an interesting one if I had, if I had severance. If I could not, like, the guy in the shed and the guy on the course are two different guys. Then that situation is untenable. Because if I didn't know what these were, and I was going in icy cold, I would genuinely be surprised. I would mount them the other way so I can't see the Tovos, and I would think this is some sort of OE tire from something. And better than a cross OE tire, better than almost all of the G-Made OE tires except 1904, 1905. They're reasonably responsive. They just, again, where we come back to, I can't inhale, is, can we? The compound, and then how tightly those lugs are spaced, are actively working against each other. So this is an instance where someone would say, well, what if you cut out half the lugs? I'd say to that, maybe. Yeah, I think I see which lugs I would cut out. Because it's actually 4 sort of intersecting lugs in the center. Here's an instance, a situation. Look at him stay. Look at him stay. Where someone, somewhere, could have been an individual, could have been a collective, could have been a cabal. They put together random elements, and it kind of works. The alarming aspect of that is that there are collectives and cabals that are presumably knowledgeable about what they're putting together, and somehow they succeed in doing it. They succeed in failing. Their failure task failed successfully. Yeah, they are far more successful at failing their tasks. Golf analogy. I'm sure there's a duffer out there who has hit a hole-in-one and yet has a greens in regulation percentage, which is If it's a par 4, you're supposed to get on the green in X amount. If it's a par 5, right? So greens in regulation, there's a percentage. How many times do you do it? There's somebody who probably does it 20% of the time, but has nevertheless hit a hole in one. So a blind squirrel and a nut, etc., etc. Wild. They're actually getting a little better. They're getting a little better as we go. Center cut it. Not quite enough sauce to center cut it. It's genuinely surprising at this point. Like, as it goes on, it seems to be getting a little better. We've already passed the trail grappler. I feel like we've passed the axial Falcon Wild Peak. It has definitely earned its way out of the 93 zone. I was going for a catch, but I didn't initiate it early enough. Get one more catch and we'll go for a cyclone. Going for a catch right here. There's some lack of precision still. And now we'll go cyclone. And when we're on the side hill, which is, yeah, it's much better that way. Many tires, while the lugs might look just completely symmetrical, they have a directionality of intent where self-righting is either steer to the sky and hit reverse or steer to the ground and hit forward. And the Tovos are steer to the ground and hit forward. And it, refreshingly, as they're getting dirted up, they seem to be getting more consistent at everything. So in terms of a rock score, I said it about the Proline, the actual Toyo, and I'll say it about the Tovos as well. I don't think this is a rock crawling tire. This is a scale tire, and with the real thing, you make a sacrifice for vanity, right? You're looking at the appearance of something, which, geez, I'm trying to think. I mean, Tusk notwithstanding, I'm thinking about tires that are scale in appearance, yet predominantly performance. You're always going to get beat by a pin. You're always going to get beat by something hieroglyphic. So in terms of a trail score, these would certainly score better than they would as a rock crawling tire. And I think that can probably be said for virtually every scale tire. The requirements are different. The situations are different. Generally, the PSI is quite different. Trail rigs tend to be heavier, running larger batteries. They're built to, durability and consistency is what I'm looking for when I'm going to go out and drive 4 miles, when I'm not going to putter around in an area that never gets further than 200 feet from the workshop where any and all things can be repaired. So ultimately then, we scooch back around to why. We scooch back around to the why. Why is this tire a thing? Knowing the options that we have, what does this give us? Not given by something else. And the answer to that can't be, oh, well, it's cheaper. That is a sure way to get yourself in trouble. The sidewall, we've got a side leg, but you can see it there nicely highlighted by the sun. self-righting is going to be an iffy proposition in most instances, and for whatever reason, maybe the firmness of the white outer on these, we've ended up on our side or upside down more than a couple of times. And ultimately, you can kind of judge a tire overall. Take the Quickview and distill it. How many times did I have to get up and turn it over? And we've got to be past half a dozen. Also, the Tovo RT on the driver's sides are reasonably well worn off already. There we go. Yeah, it really likes the forward ass. You got a Cyclone out. Are these an option? And I would say, ultimately and subjectively, probably not. They're going to get a score that's actually going to look fairly okay. And in terms of a price performance factor, they're going to look pretty okay as well. When I look at a trail tire, when I look at any tire, cost is always a factor. But, as I said, long wearing is the number one for trail, and performance is the number one for rock crawling. As this is not a rock crawling tire, and that's just by nature of being a Tovo. I think it's somewhere in an unfortunate middle ground. It's somewhere in the middle where rock crawling wise, absolutely not the worst. But again, least worst is not really. I don't think anybody wants to bring home the trophy that says least worst on it. In terms of a trailing tire, I don't know if the durability nor the longevity will be there. And all of these points might be moot when we pull on a wet here, because these will either come to life or they'll do what we suspect they'll do. Belly's a little involved right there. Hey, all right. All right, Tovos. You go, Tovo. Do your business. All right, now, I love a surprise as much as the next guy. We get a real high Starsky and tire with lugs that are too close together and all of the other factors. And you expect that you hit wet and they just turn into grease. Grease. These did not. Look at this. Look at. That was forward progress right there. Give it a little. Tovos? Tovos. Off times. While I've said, if your day is going well, hit the side hill, ruin it. Ending the tire test protocol on wet, because we tend to kind of want to get the tires wet last in case it ruins them, is often another way. Oh, tire's doing pretty good. Stinks on ice. Then every once in a very rare while, the opposite happens. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to notch these in at a 94.7, which is just under the real Open Country RT. It's right there with the 2.2 Mickey Thompson Baja MTZ Narrows, which are actually like 4.75s. They're weird ones. They're there with the General Grabber, Predator Trenchers, G8 Hyrax, the Louise Griffin, Comp Growlers. None of those tires that I just listed to you would I regard as outright rock crawling tires. Those are mixed duty tires at best. If I'm outfitting a trail rig, it's not getting Hyrax, it's not getting Trenchers, it's not getting MTZs. The BFG Mud Terrain KM3 from Proline is down there in G8. The 1.9 Falcon Wild Peak is right there. The Scorpio, the fake Wild Peaks. What I'm noticing now about my own database is that tires have been distributing. They've been distributing. Because if I look down in that area, is there a non-scale looking tire down there? No. 419 comp pin was a misstep. They didn't get the carcass thickness right. That's why it's down in the 30s in scoring. Gravel Stage, Extreme MT. I want to see, okay, Reef Saber is a pattern tire. Rhino Moza, but at this point, we're already up into the 20s. We're already up into the mid-96s in score. XHX pins there in 20th place. Ripsaws, Klingons, Ruptures. Then we start going into it, right? We start getting into Moabs and Ibex and Tutu Mozas and Trachites and hieroglyphic tires. So the scale tires have been distributing into the middle, which is why we're gonna have to add a full column to the spreadsheet, and I've mentioned it a couple times now, because there are tires that have applications outside of rock crawling, obviously. Is this tire worthy of consideration? Kind of. If you're building that rig, maybe it's for you, maybe it's for your nephew, maybe it's for your grandkid, right? You don't want so much traction that kid is going to get that front tire wedged in a slot, apply beans, and proceed directly to unanticipated mechanical disassembly. These could be an OE tire. If all OE tires were this good, we would have to buy a lot less tires. Is this tire a great rock crawling tire? No. Do I think it would ultimately be an outstanding trailing tire? No. But it's better than bad. And I know I've been volleying back and forth with myself this whole time. Is the trophy for least worst a trophy you would want to take home? I don't even think it's least worst. I think it's well, not only is it better than a lot, that score would put us, what did I say, 94.7, would put us around 40th place out of around 100-ish tires scoring above that. And then below that, there's about 95 tires below it. We've landed right there in the middle. I feel like I'm in a time warp, because I know I have stated this exact phrase before, where this, and I'm not talking about the gentleman whose name is Baseline, I'm talking about a tire that establishes a baseline. A thing I did not anticipate waking up this morning or any other morning is that the Tovo Open Country RT would kind of be the middle ground. Not a great rock crawling tire, not a great trailing tire, but inexpensive, functional, and kind of setting a little bit of a delineation between below this, it kind of gets worse, and above this, it kind of gets better. There is an imaginary Venn diagram. Imagine it with me. And on the one big bubble, it is tires for rock crawling. On the other big bubble, it is tires for trailing. And as they overlap, there is a very, very select and slim few that drop into that center notch. And this one would be dead center, right there in the middle. Not the best rock crawling, not the best. And for that, I don't know. Does that work in its favor, or does that work in against it? Do we want our performance slider, like, who's moving the slider? We've learned this. You ever played a role-playing game before? Never put the slider in the middle. It's better to be able to swing an axe and be dumb as a post, or be really, really smart and not even know how to pick up the axe. One or the other. Is it better or worse to have those sliders right in the middle? Well, that's what the Tovo Open Country RT did. It moved sliders right to the middle. And I'm going to cut those lugs off. You'll see it again. I'm going to select, we're going to make a little pile of forbidden chocolate chips. And I'm going to cut about half the lug, between a third and half the lugs out of that tire. And then we will revisit. Because I think it's maybe on the cusp of okay. I do like a surprise. I hope you like a surprise. I hope you like being here today. I loved having you. I hope that you come back and see us again real soon. And I sincerely hope that in between now and then, you would all do your very best to have a good run. We'll see you again here from the canyon. And my brain will not retain. It doesn't. I've gotten to that age. I won't remember, maybe, that the Tovo Open Country RT is the absolute middle of both. It's the middle of the trail section and the middle of the rock section. Who would have thought it? Who saw it getting better in wet? Not me. Who saw a tire Starsky like that and then work? Not I. This is why me and Baseline keep at it, man. Because ultimately, we never know.